mass issue.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so that's not so bad.
Exactly.
So I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
And we're back. George, can you hear me?
I can. You look great and you sound great.
Well, gee whiz, thanks. I've got my fingers on my little Zoom P4 mixer, so I can adjust things as needed. Now, what do you got? Is that a McDuff cup that you've got going on there?
It's a I don't know if you can see it, but it's a IB Hale coaching snipers. We had in the Kennedy story, we had IB Hale coaching his son, Robert Allen Hale, and their cult leaders in fundamental LDS. This story, we have the uncle who runs the covert training program, Mikey. Mikey runs the training program and that's how this shooter got into the covert Ukraine shooting program. So
well, I want to talk about all of that, but
okay.
I want to talk about the article that you and I wrote first.
Yes, let's do that. I'm sorry. I just had to put a plug in. So.
No. And we'll get there. And I'm sure that we'll tease the audience.
Right.
Okay. We'll talk.
I wanted to just say it's coming. The Lee Harvey Robinson stuff's coming. Okay.
Because I have a lot to say about that also.
Yeah, great.
You know, but to me, it's all it's all in the metadata at this point.
And Peter, your article states
it's not your article, it's our article.
Okay, our article. Thank you for giving me a credit where it's not due. But anyway,
no, George, I would have never thought of half of the things that I wrote down if you hadn't mentioned them. I think that my value to this audience is that I catch things that you say, and then I put them in a framework so that they can kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah, and I think you do a fantastic job in this piece of just explaining mass formation psychosis, Hegelian dialectic, problem, crisis, solution, however you want to say it, and the reframing and the stories that the elites and the people in power tell to get you to believe the things that aren't true. It's a masterpiece. So I'll just let you take it from there.
Well, I mean, look, it's part one. And part of the reason that you and I decided that we wanted to do this show today is because I started talking to you about wanting, I think it was the last show or the show before that. And I said, we really should go back because there's so many things that you and I have talked about over the years that, as far as I could tell, I mean, they might have been documented, but they were either documented as a video or they were documented as a book that isn't available anymore, or there's some other kind of mitigating circumstance. And I thought, well, let's just take the one big idea that, out of the whole COVID-19 era that I thought was the most important idea that we were talking about. And here's the reason why I think it's a big idea. I'm not saying that the scenario that we lay out in this article is true, but I think that the exercise of going through the exercise of going through this and then looking at the world with that set of glasses on is a radical shift in the way that things are being perceived. And that if you can understand and kind of think of it like, think of the world as kind of like a James Bond movie, right? And that there really is a Goldfinger and there really is a Blofeld, and these people really do exist. And by the way, James Bond does actually work for MI6, and many people don't know this. I didn't know this until I read the book, A Man Named Intrepid, the book about William Stevenson, is that the head of MI6 does not report to the Prime Minister of Great Britain. The head of MI6 reports to the monarch. And that's a really important kind of data point for people to understand that, the monarchy may not have all of the official power, but if they hold the compromise book on everybody who's in government, I just realized I didn't turn my light on. I'm turning my light on.
Oh, you look great.
Yeah. If people don't realize that the monarchy has control over all the blackmail information in Great Britain, that gives the monarchy a lot of power that is soft power, right? It's silent power. It's covert power. Okay. And you know, last time I checked, all of the ships and the airplanes and the army in Great Britain, they had HM in front of them, right?
Right.
His Majesty or Her Majesty, right? So,
Could I just say one thing about the comments already? Peter, we've already been accused of being complicit, you and I, of taking down the deep state in the United States. We've already been accused of taking down the royal monarchy in a complicit, seditious conspiracy. We've already been accused of taking down the the British East India Company for the drug running. In the first couple of minutes here, and they're all from the MI6 services, so from Britain. So in a way, the metadata here to what you just said proves exactly what you're about to say is true, and I just thought I'd point that out.
yeah, exactly. And I is it Ham Honkerman?
No, I think Black Tie and others are saying, "Hey, you guys are taking out the deep state. Stop it! You guys are taking out the people who write my paycheck. Stop it!"
Yeah, I mean, well, let's just start with our conceit, because I think that our conceit in this article is very germane to the current events. I think it's very germane to the Ukrainian girl getting assassinated in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going to talk about Michael Hoffman a little bit when we start talking about the assassinations.
Idaho,
okay,
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
But you know, our conceit at the so just to kind of catch everybody up, we posted this article on Substack a couple of days ago called "How to Psyop the World into Compliance." Now, George has a lot of receipts that substantiate a great number of the things that we talk about in this thought experiment, right? But I thought that it was best for people to kind of get an idea of the framework of what we're talking about before we start adding all the receipts. Like, let's understand what the story is, okay? And once we understand what George would call the full flight of the arrow, and once we can understand that, then we can start to kind of take a look at all of the metadata, the stuff that's self-evident, the stuff that's out there in the public arena, and see whether or not it matches the scenario, right? So and again, I'm framing it as a thought experiment because there's no way that there's enough evidence for us to tell you absolutely that this is true and that this is what happened. There is a whole bunch of metadata that points in this direction, though. And so, you know, I think that we need to let people make things up for themselves. But the original premise, and I'll start right here in the first, I'll just read the first paragraph, and then you and I kind of riff from there. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, George Webb and I discussed a hypothetical scenario in which a super state actor, and I think that we all agree, everybody on this channel recognizes there is a super state actor, right? There's somebody operating at the level above what we know as national governments, right? And this is substantiated by people like Chip Tatum, right? There's a super state actor, such as, for instance, what some people call the Crown Empire, right? And the Crown Empire today would also be known as the Anglo-American establishment. It is roughly the financial powers in the city of London and Wall Street and Wall Street. Its successors, that is, the people who will take over for it once it's gone into hiding, which is the United States of America, which is what happened in 1946. Its agents, and its agents are Five Eyes and Mossad. So people who are assuming that Mossad and Israel are working against the best interests of the United States don't understand that there's a super state, and that the CIA and Mossad are actually on the same side, even though occasionally they will do some kind of what George Webb refers to as hair pulling, where they will, Milo Yiannopoulos and Johnny Vedmore will be pointing at the CIA or at Israel. But nobody's pointing at, and Candace Owens is pointing at Israel when she's married to a guy whose father is in the House of Lords. And none of them, Nick Fuentes or Milo Yiannopoulos or Johnny Vedmore or any of them, are pointing at MI6. None of them are pointing at the British Empire. Okay, so its successors and assigns. The assigns are the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the Fabian Society, the entire military industrial complex. So we're talking about Lockheed, Raytheon, Boeing, General Dynamics, the World Health Organization, and the Vatican. Okay, they're all the same. They're all. This is the superstate, right? And that they could use various types of bioweapons to simulate a pandemic. And I think that the important thing here that we're talking about is that this entire article is about psychological warfare. It's not about biology per se. It's about how you weaponize biology in order to sell a psychological impact on people. And that's why I call it epi-war, epistemological warfare, because ultimately it winds up being about how we know what we know. And one of the things I wanted to jump to, George, and throw it to you in this article, because I'm going to skip down a little bit, is that I think it's step 2. So I'm going to, step 1 is battlefield preparation. We talk about predictive programming and creating all of these memes, transmedia memes that take place across all media for the last 100 years, starting with H.G. Wells. But I'll skip that part. I want to skip to because I think that this is germane to what you're dealing with right now, and that's the setup for the epistemological fallback positions. One of the most important components of epi-war is pre-planned fallback positions. These narrative variations are parallel constructions designed to come up with alternative explanations for the same set of facts. These alternate narratives flood the zone with misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation when independent researchers begin to uncover inconvenient evidence, like you have been in the last couple of days. Okay, and the examples for the 2020 event were, there was a zoonotic back virus story, there was a lab leak story, there was a wet market story, there was a Chinese bioweapon story, there was even a monkeys, I don't know if you remember the monkeys escaping from the Trump trucks in Pennsylvania story. Okay, all of these stories just hit boom, 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 boom at the same time, and people who are trying to figure out what's going on are that it's the cat and the laser pointer. And so we can talk about Charlie Kirk and the Ukrainian girl for a minute here. Again, what I don't want to lose track of today is that you had a bunch of receipts that went with this article. And so I'd like to talk about those receipts. But if you want to talk about, because we're in the moment right now, I think that we are in this phase 2 of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which is that we're being bombarded with epistemological fallback positions. There's the cigarette butts. There's the shell casings with things written on them. There's the old man who got immediately arrested, right? There's the story that it's a shot from 200 meters. Like, I don't know where all of these, I don't know where all these, those are just the ones that I know of, and I'm not paying any attention to what's going on. And then there's the heartfelt, but slightly odd, I would just characterize it, odd statement by Erica Kirk yesterday, which I don't know if you got a chance to watch that. But anyway, I'm going to throw it to you now.
Well, I would be interested in the Erica Kirk. First, you wrote mainly about using a nanotechnology to create the create the look and feel of a pandemic in order to lock a society down and in order to get people to dossier themselves, whether they believe in viruses or not, and that sort of is a control mechanism.
Right.
And that's the thing here. And somebody said, "Do I still believe the virus started at the World Military Games?" Not just me, the whole world now knows that's the truth, right? So it's not just me, it's the United States Senate and everybody else investigating it. I say it actually the lab leaking live exercise actually happened on September the 11th. Move it back a month.
But that no virus story is another epistemological fallback position, right? That adds confusion into the equation, right?
Yeah, because whether or not there is a virus, what you're saying is the effect of putting in a whole bunch of things for social distancing. You can't meet together as patriots more than 3. You can't use public areas. Nobody can be seen having fun. Everybody has to shelter in place at home. These are all things that you would do during a military occupation, right? You have to take the virus as sort of almost a loyalty test. Right. This is all the sort of things that you would do, have loyalty oaths and so forth if you're taking over a country. So whether, like you say, whether or not the technology, put that aside, it's a social control mechanism, right? And people are saying, and the MI6 folks in the audience saying, you're going after our cash cow here. You're going after our drug running. You're going after our deep state. Stop it, you guys. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. So, Peter, I'll throw it back to you. I didn't see Charlie Kirk's wife's statement other than we're going to get the assassins. I heard the plural, right? I heard that we're going to get
again. Here's my thought on this again, and I'm heartbroken by what happened to Charlie Kirk. Okay, I'm heartbroken by what his kids are going to have to deal with. I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk on a lot of stuff. I met him once at a Candace Owens event, and we stood in a stairwell together, and just him and me for 15 minutes and watched Candace Owens do her thing. But the statement that she made yesterday, it was brave and it was tough, and it made me think she's taken over Turning Point USA. And she's taking over $100 million a year endowed operation, and she's going to keep that thing going. And I couldn't help but think about Lorene Jobs, and the idea that, again, I'll put my tinfoil hat on, but my assumption about all of this stuff is that we are talking about this super state player that we're talking about. And again, the people who want to blame Israel have not done enough research. They don't understand that Israel is a British Empire program. There may have been Jews inside of Great Britain that helped speed that along, specifically the Rothschilds. Okay, but it's not just people of that persuasion, right? They don't have a monopoly on this. The Crown Empire has stockholders, and when you understand that, my bias at this point is that JFK was killed by MI6, that FDR was killed by MI6, that Charlie Kirk was killed by MI6. I mean, and when you start to take a look at who the people are who are aligned with Great Britain, and that they're easy to identify because a lot of them have English accents, right? A lot of them are from colonies. We have a director of the FBI who's, his family is are they from India? Is that where they're from? George? Okay. So, I mean, I like Kash Patel. Okay. But yeah. he doesn't walk. He's got the Trey Gowdy, I can talk the talk, I can't walk the walk syndrome,
right.
Tulsi Gabbard seems to be like a good person, except she was in the Council on Foreign Relations and she was a young global leader. WEF young global leader. So, I'm sorry. I've got great questions about all of these people. And so if you assume that this Crown Empire is in control, if you assume that the Mormon Mafia, I'm just going to take, again, I'll go to Charlie Kirk because it's the top of the mind, but I just assume he was taken out by the Mormon Mafia. Because they control Utah. And if you're getting death threats from Utah, George, I think that you should probably stay out of Utah. Like, I think it's probably a good idea.
Peter, I'm riding the edges. I'm not going deep in. I'm on the edges. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Just, just stay out of Utah because the whole thing about the Mormon Mafia is that they look really genteel and non-lethal. That's their whole persona. So anyway, I think there is a Mormon Mafia, and I think that they work for the Crown Empire, and I think that there are Illuminati and they work for the Crown Empire, and I think that there's Antifa and they work for the Crown Empire, and I think that when you see people like Nick Fuentes quoting the Council on, when he's criticizing Trump, and he's quoting the Council on Foreign Relations chapter and verse, that you just have to assume he's in the Crown Empire. Okay, it's like, so if people have watched my rendering of Lyndon LaRouche's Palmerston Zoo series, then you understand that the Crown Empire operates by putting together these groups that Webster Tarpley refers to as stooges, right? Who wind up powering this dialectic that has been keeping this divide and conquer thing going for hundreds of years now. So, until we come to a conclusion or a realization that we're up against this super state actor, which is where you and I started the article, then all bets are off, because if you go below that level, you're going to find yourself in one way or another in a dialectic, whether or not it's a communist capitalist or a Republican Democrat or a conservative liberal or a woke versus right woke versus left woke. It doesn't matter, right? Because people are being fooled into hating each other. So I'll just throw it back to you.
I think we're talking about, this is the whole, can you hear me?
I don't hear you, but maybe other people hear you. So I'll check my audio.
I think they can hear me because I can hear you, Peter.
And it's changed. My audio has changed.
All
right. I'm going to dip out and dip back in again because it's okay. I believe that this has got to be some kind of an attack on us. So I'm going to leave the studio and come back.
Okay. Well, I think I'll go full screen, and I'll just say that this is the thing, which is what is really true. And the what is really true question is, if you're just relying on screens, you're just relying on the command center, the command and control center, you're just relying on the screens on Pennsylvania Avenue with Kash Patel. And Peter, what I'm saying is the whole thing of what you talk about reality and reframing reality. If your whole reality is Kash Patel's office and it's a command center, and you're watching big screen TVs and you're having people come in and tell you what's happening out there, and you're not actually going out there and piercing through, poltergeist, if you're not piercing through the television and actually going out and actually setting up a whole theater of 1,000 FBI agents to figure out a crime, if you're not doing that, you're very manipulable, right? And that's the same thing is true with anyone watching the television and so forth.
And this is how they control presidents. They put advisors around them.
YouTube, here's the YouTube pictures. If you attack, you're going to get U2. You're going to have missiles, Russian missiles. So don't attack John F. Kennedy. So my point is that you got to get out of the office. Kennedy tried this, but finally we got Kash Patel out of the office, and we got him there, and we immediately got people, with the uncle with the ROTC recruiting program hiding, and then they were like, "Oh, we're going to lose the ROTC program. We're going to lose the Uncle Mikey. So let's give up this shooter. Let's give up this recruiting, this guy, Kyle." And it worked. And what I'm saying, your advice about reframing reality, the best way to reframe your reality is get out of your grandmother's basement and go on site to see it for yourself, because you wouldn't believe how many times they march people around a bus to make it look like a big crowd, or they march people around a photographer to make it look like a big crowd. And they do all these Smith-Mundt lies in the news. And when you go there, you get a totally different perspective, right? This happens every time we go and do a charrette, 55 charrettes now. We've done news sharing events, and we have 12 to 18 people for 18 days. So there's a lot of corroboration and verification and validation of what actually occurred. And that's the way we beat this thing that you're talking about, which is your frame or your reality is just this square. If that's all you rely on, if you don't know that there's 18 people behind it and you haven't met them, like you said, you met Charlie Kirk, then you don't know who to trust. But once you start getting on the other side of the screen and you start going to the Peter Duke barbecues, you know, where Peter Duke's holding court in his backyard with the barbecue thing as his talking stick, you know, and when you sit at one of the barbecues, which we want to set up soon, now that we have the new barbecue set up
around Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, around Thanksgiving, we're going to do another one. Then the whole world changes for you. Hey, Peter Duke's a real person. Wow, he's really, you know, he really is talking about all of his connections. He really is giving his time freely. He can't be. Is he really this Hollywood guy that's giving his time freely to network to citizen journalists? Yes, yes. So now this is the setup here for your piece, which is if you just rely on their storytelling, you're always going to be lied to. You're never going to get the truth.
Right. I mean, do you think Donald Trump art directed this piece of art on the White House website?
No.
This is on the White House website.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a screenshot from whitehouse.gov. Okay. I don't think Donald Trump art directed this. I don't think Donald Trump probably knows that this exists, because I don't think he would paint himself into a corner like this. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that so what we've done is in this article is that, you know, this article is available in a couple of different formats. I wrote it as an article, and one of the nice things about Substack is that you can. I don't think I can do it if I'm logged in. But one of the things that's nice about Substack is that you can have these articles read to you. So if you're lazy, and you know, or if you're somebody who doesn't have the attention span to read something, if you have the Substack app loaded onto your phone. Now, a lot of people turn this feature off, or they make you pay. I don't charge anybody for anything. I'm different than a lot of people. I don't charge for my Substack. Okay, if you want to pay for it, I'm happy. If you want it, because I like the fact that the people who pay me are the people who see value in what I'm delivering. And the benefit is that you can leave comments, right? And that way I have like 0 trolls in my comments, George. So if you pay me, you can leave a comment. If you don't pay me,
I do the same.
Not so much. But you know, one of the things that George and I agree on, again, my wife doesn't like this format. And you know what? I understand why she doesn't like it. And my wife likes to read. So my wife read the article that I wrote, and that's great. But for people who don't want to read, Google has this AI app called Notebook LM, and it creates this podcast. And I don't know if you've listened to the last version, George. I played the first version for you, but this is the 8th version of it.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't wait to hear it. The first one was good.
But let me see if I can give you a taste here of.
It's about a deep system.
Okay, I got to get it to play through the mixer. Let's see.
And a conditioning to fundamentally alter humanity's relationship with its own body and with authority.
And here's where it gets really insightful, I think, because the authors highlight a central, almost cynical irony in how this compliance would supposedly be achieved. They refer to it as the classic carrot and stick tactic, right?
Mhm.
That twisted into a very manipulative dynamic. Can you describe this ironic carrot and stick dynamic that they meticulously detail? What makes it so potent in their hypothetical?
Yeah, the irony Duke and Webb pinpoint is indeed profound, and it speaks to a deep psychological manipulation as they see it. In this hypothetical scenario, the carrot, right, the promised reward for compliance, is nothing less than protection against death. However, the stick, the existential threat that makes this protection seem so desirable, is presented as originating from the very same people who are threatening to kill all of us, or so the authors allege. This establishes a deeply insidious and, well, self-reinforcing dynamic, From the author's perspective, the superstate actor allegedly creates the pervasive existential threat, the simulated pandemic, and then immediately offers the solution, the injections, thereby positioning themselves as the indispensable saviors from a danger they themselves supposedly orchestrated.
So anyway, all you have to do is listen. If you want, and I've posted this on Substack, on YouTube, on Twitter, on SoundCloud. I haven't done Rumble yet, but it will be there on Rumble, and you'll be able to, like I said, you can listen to this. And for people who don't want to read, it's it's I think it's what does it say? It's 30. I think it's how long is it? It's 42 minutes.
Peter, what I found, and again, this is the 55 charrettes, news gathering events, 12 people, 12 days or more for each. What I found is people are running, they're exercising on a bike when they're listening, or they're walking the dog, or they're doing gardening, or I had one guy who's a welder. He goes, "Oh, I just put you guys on, and I'm welding. I'm at work, I'm welding because it's, I'm able to concentrate while doing something with my hands that's different." Or people working on cars or whatever that just don't have the time, to read. So I agree. It's not a substitute for reading, but if you don't have time, it's certainly a substitute for time. It gives you time back in your day where you can keep up. And it's the part I love about this is how you take 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different pandemic things in history, not just in the latest one, but you go all the way back to 1905, I think, for one of them. And you go back through the history also in fictional works where you talk about War of the Worlds and these other fictional works where the same objective is to try to get the population under fear. And that's where I think the big insight comes because when you can put all those things together and string them all together in your mind, you go, "Hey, wait a minute, this is the plan."
And when it is the plan. And when you realize that it started in 1898 with War of the Worlds, you understand the scope, the full flight of the arrow, as George would say. Okay. And by the way, in 1898, the United States was not a superpower. Okay. And it wasn't until December 23rd, 1913, that the British oligarchy, let's just call them the Crown Empire, reclaimed control over the United States of America through their agents, J.P. Morgan, okay, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie. Okay, these guys were working for the Crown Empire. Okay, and they handed the United States back to the Crown Empire. So there haven't been once, and again, this is part of the reason that taking a look at all of it's called transmedia, where you're not just looking at the news, you're not just looking at current events, you're looking at movies, you're looking at books, you're looking at fiction, you're looking at nonfiction. Okay, because this is what F. William Engdahl and the Pentagon refer to as full spectrum dominance, right? You're attacking people's knowledge base, which is what epistemological warfare is, across all spectrums. Okay, and like I said, we're in the phase 2 part of the Charlie Kirk story right now, which is the epistemological fallback positions. So you're going to get bombarded with alternate hypotheses. My bias, my jaded, one-sided, biased opinion is that if you assume British Empire or Crown, let's call it Crown Empire, because it's all the monarchies. They're all spread across Europe, but the British are mostly in control. But there's German monarchies and Austrian monarchies. There's other monarchies. The Habsburgs have taken it on the chin. Maybe that's why they don't have one. But making a joke there. Anyway,
I laughed.
I digress. But the point is that we're in this fallback position. And there's going to be a bunch of stories. So if you assume that it's Crown Empire, if you assume something like the Mormon Mafia, and by the way, the Mormon Mafia has completely infiltrated the FBI. So,
Yes.
and so if you're telling me that Kash Patel is on the ground, is he on the ground in Utah?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I hope he has a lot of non-Mormons around him.
Yeah. Yeah, that he had a big remount session for a whole bunch of people in Washington before he left. And Peter, what I always assume, I kind of fast forward in history a little bit, and I look at the last three big assassination events, right? They all have a covert Ukraine sniper program associated with them. This one with Kyle Robinson has his uncle is the recruiter for overseas sniper program for Ukraine. So this is the most obvious, and they just served us up the best lead we could have ever had, to solve Crooks and to solve Ryan Ruth. But Ryan Ruth also went to these college campuses, and they were giving 100,000. If you brought the kid with good grades and who could shoot and figure out calculus, you give 100K to him and 100K to the kid, cash bonus for going in the program, right? That's cash on the barrelhead. That buys you a Dodge Challenger today, right?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Dodge Challenger. Okay.
Well, let me just say one last thing. Ruth was in that program, and also Crooks. So I'll leave it right there. I'm just saying now all these last three assassinations are all teeing up, and it is the Ukraine recruiter thing going on. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so one of the things that I tweeted out and I talked to you about yesterday was
you're going to do the Dodge Challenger. You're going to say the Dodge Challenger.
I am going to talk about the Dodge Challenger. I'm teeing up the Dodge Challenger. Okay, so Michael Hoffman, who wrote a book called I'll bring it up. I can't talk and bring it up at the same time. Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare. I've read the book a dozen times, okay, because it's a book that is so dense and has so many ideas in every sentence that it just kind of makes your head spin. Like you'll read a couple of paragraphs and you have to put the book down and take a walk, right? Because your mind explodes. And I worked for Virgin, who I believe Virgin was named for Queen Elizabeth I, who signed the charter with the British East India Company, which is the reason that Virgin is the brand that it is. Okay. It's the cultural division of the current version of the Crown Empire. And because Virgin is a company all the companies are privately held. Nobody knows whether or not Virgin makes money or loses money. Richard Branson is a cutout billionaire. Okay. And, but, two things. Charlotte was the wife of King George III. So doing events, why am I talking about Charlotte? Because the Dodge Challenger was also in Charlottesville. Okay. The car that drove into the crowd that killed Heather Heyer, I think it was her name, was a gray Dodge Challenger. And then when I saw this kid is driving a Challenger, I was thinking, is this a wink? And what I wrote another article that was based on something that Michael Hoffman wrote about the British Freemasonic idea of something called truth or consequences, which is basically we're going to lay out for you in a movie like I don't know, Diamonds Are Forever, Goldfinger, whatever it is. We're going to, or Contagion. That's probably a much better example. We're going to lay out for you exactly what we're going to do. And then if you don't do anything about it, even though we're telling you what we're doing, it's your fault. It's on you. Okay. This is called truth or consequences. This is the idea of truth or consequences. So the Challenger, again, I'm using the metadata, the George Webb approach. Who makes the Challenger?
Dodge.
Okay. In British English, when something is really sketchy AF, okay, the expression that the British have is that's dodgy.
Correct.
Okay. So when I look at a piece of evidence through my British Empire Corporation lens, having worked at Virgin for 5 years and sat around the table with a bunch of City of London, Scots, Irish, Welsh, New Zealanders, Australians, South Africans, all of them, all in the same room. When I see a Dodge, I think it's dodgy. I'm thinking, oh, somebody is giving you a dodgy piece of evidence here. Okay. And not only and it's truth or consequences, it's a wink, right? It's as George would say. Anyway, that's my Dodge Challenger.
Well, when I go back to the Dodge brothers, who were kind of the early financiers, Ford bought into Dodge. I think it was up in Flint, and I can't remember exactly all my.
I'm just talking about the name.
No, I understand. I'm going in your direction here, which is there's outside influencers that have the financial controls that can even take somebody as independent as Henry Ford. And Ford he tried to control all the means of production, so he couldn't have manufactured shortages for labor shortages. Right. So that's the only reason Henry Ford wanted to own all the means of production, so that he couldn't have labor strikes. And they went at him with the glass, if you remember, to slow his production. And then there was one other thing that they went after him but he was trying to control everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't called MI6 at the time. I think it was called Her Majesty's Secret Service, but they fed him all of the same protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion nonsense. And he wound up publishing 4 books through the Dearborn,
Independent.
Dearborn Independent, right? Well, they suckered him. I mean, they did the same thing to Henry Ford that they did to the Tsar, right? They fed him all of this anti-Semitic stuff that he bought hook, line, and sinker, and then he wound up compromising himself by publishing those books.
Yeah, I think his son also fell into that with the Edsel.
Yeah.
And his son also fell into becoming a war production, shifting from car production. Henry Ford really wanted just cars. War is not good for cars. So we want to sell cars. We don't want to sell tanks. But they got Edsel into the planes, and they got Edsel into the bombers and whatnot, and they got Edsel into the tank idea, and really kind of took Ford off track a little bit into the war economy and so forth. So I do think that there was these influences along the way, like you're saying, the Dodge brothers had an effect on Ford. Maybe that was a little.
I didn't mean to go off into the Dodge brothers. The point that I was trying to make is that we need to pay attention to things like, what's the name of the car? Okay, it's like it's not. I mean, if this kid was being set up, okay, as a patsy, as a Lee Harvey Oswald. By the way, Lee Harvey Oswald didn't live very long, so if he is Lee Harvey Oswald, it wouldn't make sense to let him continue to breathe.
And I want to make clear, I don't think this is a Lee Harvey Oswald situation, because you had David Ferrie as the coach,
right?
And Lee Harvey Oswald is the CIA, right? And he's expendable at that point. This one's different. The uncle, Mikey is the guy doing the Ukraine recruiting, and he's recruiting his nephew. So you have a blood tie here, more like Robert Allen Hale.
I'm going to get dark here for a second. Okay. One of the very biblical attributes that is attributed to some of the darkest forms of the secret societies is to sacrifice your firstborn. Is he the oldest in his family?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's pretty dark, right?
That's dark. I think his father turned him in. So I think, in this story, he goes off 2017. He goes to this wingman day, and he sees his uncle Mikey recruiting, and he puts this AT-4 missile launcher in his arm. And the $100,000 for signing up today, bonuses. Remember, it was $10,000 when I was going to school.
Right.
And then you're also offering a bonus to the guy who brings you there. is what's skewing this. It's the money, right? And like you say, the British Empire or the Federal Reserve, whatever, they can print all the money they want. If
Right.
they want a war in Ukraine and they want to pay $100,000 skins, bounties for every Russian general you shoot, they could just print more money every time they want a Russian general shot.
George, I have a friend who was in Afghanistan. Okay. And the first tour that he did in Afghanistan, he spent 2 years guarding opium fields that were being cultivated by Chinese nationals that were being flown in on American helicopters. The second tour that he did in Afghanistan, he was a security guard on pallets of $100 bills that were being delivered to warlords in northern Iraq. So I think that one of the breakthroughs that I had, to your point about the Federal Reserve, is that we are fed this line of bullshit that people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel are the wealthiest people in the world. Okay. And they're only the wealthiest people that we can see. So to your point, $100,000 here and $1 million there, this is walking around money for these people.
And I've never seen, as a Cherokee, Peter, I can say this, I've never seen a white man dance as well as this kid, this Tyler Robinson. And he actually, I think he moonwalks better than Michael Jackson, who there's not a lot of people that can moonwalk better than Michael Jackson, white or black or Cherokee. So how do you get that skilled in that thing? They're trying to say he's an off-kilter kid and he's got a transgender girlfriend now. They had a Discord thing. The Discord made him do it. Yesterday was an excuse.
Discord is disavowing, right? Discord said
Discord, that story evaporated in one day. And I just
there was another kid too that was on TikTok who claimed that he went to high school with him and pointed to a picture of him and claimed that he was a Reddit kid, and that his warning to the world was that kids shouldn't spend so much time on the internet, that the vector was the internet. Like the internet turned him into, look, if he is the sniper, being able to hit that shot from 200 yards, that's, to your point that you were making on your live stream this morning. It's like the one thing that you learn very quickly, if you actually are serious about wanting to be a sniper, there's a lot of math in being a sniper. Like it's mostly math. The technique, anybody can get the technique. What anybody can't get is the math and being able to calculate, windage and the spin of the earth and, all of the other things that go into calculating a sniper shot like that.
Well, I totally agree. The math is a big part of this. You got to know cosine, and all that, cosines and so forth, with the curvature of the earth and the windage and all these things that get into calculus. And this kid was an advanced AP calculus. But in order to be that exceptional, 99% on his HCT, I published his ACTs and in AP calculus, and dance better than Michael Jackson, right? And he's dancing the robot. If you see it, you have to then tell me. But he dances better than Michael Jackson. He does the robot way better than Michael Jackson. And I think he's almost making fun of, hey, we're all supposed to be MK Ultra Manchurian candidates, right? We're all supposed to be robots. So he's actually making fun of the common belief of this. These shooters are all MK Ultra robots. No, actually, they get quite a few dates from how well they dance the robot, and they drive Dodge Challengers. That doesn't sound like somebody who's always looking at their, Instagram or their Reddit or whatever. So I'm just trying to add reality with metadata.
Yeah, and you would think that somebody who's excited about buying a Dodge Challenger wouldn't want to spend the rest of his life in jail.
He's going to get off. I mean, until you can place him getting the gun, until you can connect him with the phone. This is why I say Kash Patel's got to go for the phone. I spent 5 years going to Kash Patel's office telling him it's the phones that make the difference. You got
right. And I wrote an article about geofencing. Like there's ways to geofence.
Geofencing is also another thing. And I think Kash Patel loses his bearing sometimes when you got to go in there and take charge. You got to say it's Mississippi burning. We're going to take this whole Losi Center. We're going to have 1,000 wingtips fly in here and we're not leaving until we come up with all the answers, and give me the phone, and we're going to publish the phone. At least he did this. He published pictures, right? Which the FBI guys were telling him not to do, right? And that's going to expose the program. Now they're saying, hey, you're going to blow up the classified program here, which is recruiting of the Ukraine snipers. So that's why he's backed off on the gun caching in the woods, right? But I say, no, go ahead and publish that. Go ahead and blow up the program. Who cares, right? This is this generation's Kennedy assassination. This Charlie Kirk. The only thing that would have trumped this is Trump getting killed in Butler, right? So you should treat this
Trump's
just
never going to get. You and I can disagree, but I don't think Trump.
well. I'm just saying
I don't think Trump was ever going to die in Butler.
in terms of a psychological mass formation impact, right? Most of the kids in this generation, they've seen the Zapruder film, but it's never been somebody they knew, right? A lot of these kids now have met Charlie Kirk. They were 5 feet away from at a, debate. And now Charlie Kirk is dead. Right. So now they're like having to deal with the reality of knowing somebody who's been publicly executed, and they're going to be looking for answers. And there's going to be this transgender person they were going to bring out as the girlfriend. All kinds of things are going to happen. But you got to go with the metadata. The uncle's the covert sniper recruiter for Ukraine.
Okay, I want to play this Michael Savage thing here for a second, because I thought this was, again, I thought it was very germane, and he obviously has some domain experience here.
Something's wrong. I know I shouldn't do this. I'm risking an awful lot to go up against this FBI, the MAGA FBI. Something's very wrong with what I just heard. I mean, I watched it. I was hoping that they had caught the bastard who shot Charlie. So we saw a video of a person jumping off the roof. It looked very legitimate to me. However, there was no rifle in his hand. Now, the Mauser does not break down very easily, incidentally, for those of you who know weapons. Something's wrong with the whole thing. They're trying to claim he removed the barrel from the Mauser and fit the receiver and stock in his backpack and barrel in his pants leg all in 2 seconds. It is not easy to remove a Mauser barrel or index it after reinstalling and remain accurate. We are not hearing or seeing reality. And by the way, the photo of the rifle allegedly left in the woods has the barrel installed. So we're supposed to believe a guy is on the run after killing Charlie Kirk, and he pauses in the woods to reinstall a barrel, and then he leaves it for us to find, the FBI to find. I don't believe a word of it. I shouldn't do this. I know I'm putting myself at risk, but I can't take it anymore. I can't take the bullshit from this fucking government. It's lying to us. Something's wrong. Something's so wrong. It's sickening. Look at this idiot. They found the rifle and they're getting the prints. Are you stupid? Are you that stupid? Are you that dumb? The man jumps off the roof. There's no rifle there. Oh, it's in his backpack. I just told you, moron, that this rifle doesn't break down that easily. And then it's supposed to be reassembled while he's on the run. Wait, I'll stop now and reassemble it and leave it in the woods in a box, wrapped in a towel. He left breadcrumbs. Oh, and the trans stuff on the cartridges. Bullshit. Something is wrong with this whole fucking picture. I am persona non grata in this White House. I will tell you right now.
All right. So
can I respond to that or no?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, the FBI, I believe, reassembled the weapon, right? In order to have if it would have been a disassembled weapon, people wouldn't have said, oh, there's the Lee Harvey Oswald.
Why would they do that?
Because you want the Lee Harvey Oswald weapon, like Lee Harvey Oswald held it.
I don't believe that.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, knowing how the FBI is, when they say, oh, we got the guy, and they want to put out all this conclusive proof, they're not going to show it in parts because they're going to go, well, how did he put it together and all these things. But we'll put that off to the side. In fact, you do see a weapon that Michael Savage hasn't seen it, but there is a weapon in the in the thing when he jumps off the thing. So I know how everybody wants to focus on the forensics of the 2 minutes before and after the shooting. And what we always do is focus on the 2 hours before and the 2 hours after, because that's where you get all the metadata. Like, where's the car? Where's the Dodge Challenger? Where's the gun being picked up? How is the coordination for the gun cache? How does that operate?
I'm just counting the number of narratives. Okay.
Yeah.
You have the narratives, you're tracking down the metadata, you're putting boots on the ground, and you're suiting up and showing up and getting to where you need to go in order to put together the story that you're putting together. And then there's 50 other stories, right? I'm just counting all the stories right now, because to me, the metadata is how many different stories are people telling, and what different directions are they coming from, and what are they all trying to lead us away from? So you talked about a jet that took off, that turned off its ADS-B transponder after it left a certain airspace. A jet indicates lots of money. A private jet that's turning off its ADS-B transponder at a certain location, that indicates huge amounts of money, like JFK's assassination levels of money. Those are the people who have private jets who can do stuff like that. There's all
Can I just answer these one at a time?
Go ahead.
Because if I have a covert program, the one thing that stands out about our story, or my story, right, which is, tell me the one about the recruiter for Ukraine and the war they want to continue, right? They want to create this psychological warfare so that we all agree to go with Palantir, so they can all dossier us in an American Phoenix program, that if we have anything against the Ukraine war, they're going to start, effectuating psychological warfare and low intensity warfare on all of us. They want Palantir in every county, right? Every little city, and they don't have it yet. And this is why, Peter Thiel's on the road talking about the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is Palantir. He just forgets to mention Palantir. But my point is that the thing that they're hiding, right, is Ukraine. And the thing that they're hiding is that all of these snipers.
And to your point,
Mhm.
Who has more practice in a shot like that than somebody who's been in Ukraine for the last 2 years?
Snipers.
Right?
And they're repurposing these snipers.
A sniper who's been taking out Russians every single day for the last 2 years. Like, do you think that guy could take the shot at 200 yards and then get on an airplane and fly away back? He's probably back in Ukraine. He's probably back in Kiev right now.
Well, I think in this case, we were in St. George a day before Kash Patel. He was that night. We were in St. George, right, with the video and showing what before anybody knew, when the FBI said we have no idea where he is. Okay, just so at this point they go, uh-oh, we got a leak here. We better throw something overboard because this isn't going to look good. It's the whole thing's going down here. My point is that we had said with Danny Casolaro, they had trained on these for mercenaries. We had trained on these Indian reservations. The CIA uses the sovereignty because they can't have an FBI raid there, not like Lacombe with Lee Harvey Oswald, right? And you got to get the plane. You got to get the kids, the school bus. You got to get the kids from the school to the Navajo Indian reservation. And the only way you're going to do it is fly there because you can't be driving back and forth on the weekends. And that's where this plane was going. It was going to Page, Arizona. It was turning off its transponder. And again, this is you could try to do it with the Crooks way, where you go around the neighborhood and you pick up everybody with the white van and then you take them over to Clarendon for the shooting. But that also leaves traces with the pings. And where do you fire the rocket? Where do you fire the AT-4 in Pittsburgh, right? You kind of have to go out to the Navajo Indian reservation at some point.
Right. Or go out to a Blackwater facility.
Yeah, I went to the Blackwater facility in North Carolina on the border there. And, I went maybe too far and maybe I trespassed. But that's the other thing. That's where cops and military people in the United States goes, to that one on the North Carolina border.
Indeed. Well, George, we haven't really been talking about our story too much that we wrote, because when George and I decided that we wanted to do this show, we were talking about attaching metadata, and specifically I wanted to talk about the HVAC stuff.
Okay.
Today. I don't know if you still want to talk about that or not, but
well, I think what you're, I think we can come back for round 2 on this, because we're into it in an hour. But we've introduced folks to the article and they can read it. But if you're trying to convince everybody there is a war of the worlds, right? And you're trying to convince everybody there's some pathogen that's unknown, like the world of the world's blood, and it's killing everybody. So we need to do all these emergency things that we've never done before. Okay. That's the general premise of War of the Worlds. And the general premise of how do you effectuate that is Shuang Wu with her patents of saying, here's the filter you put in and the nanoparticles go out and people get infected, and the PCR comes back and confirms what we said about the pandemic. That's the idea here. That's the basic gist of the whole article. And so remdesivir, we need mRNA, we need whatever, it allows the people in control to control the narrative and get out of the pandemic what they want.
Yeah. So let me just read this part of the article. And I'm sorry we're jumping around here, folks, but it's what George and I do.
I think this is fine. I think this is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's like being in one of our charrettes, where basically somebody grabs the talking stick and then they run the conversation runs in a different direction. All right. Step 4, tactical mortality, the sword. Viruses and other live biological payloads require tremendous maintenance and delivery infrastructure. Time, temperature, and other considerations require specialized equipment and trained personnel to manage its deployment. It's funny because when George and I did this, the AI picked up on it and said, yes, you don't need cold chain. And I did the term cold chain is not in this article. So the AI figured that out all by itself. There is a biological technology for propagating disease that does not require the same diligence and infrastructure cost, called a virus-like particle, whereby infection can be delivered tactically without the requirement for processes like cold storage. VLPs are dry, relatively impervious to temperature and humidity variations, and can be deployed in a variety of methods, such as saturating air conditioning HVAC filters in subways, hospitals, shopping malls, and retirement homes. And then I go on and in a footnote there, George, by the way, if you want the AI to not call you a conspiracy theorist, then do what I did. So when I talk about using HVAC systems, if you go down to the footnotes in this article, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 citations, including NSA Archive, PBS.org, NBCI, and Government Accounting Office links to stories about the 1949 deployment of bioweapons in the Pentagon. Okay. If you do stuff like that, the AI doesn't call you a conspiracy theorist. Just like, that's part, I put these in here so that people believe us, but I also put things in here so the AI believes us. Right. So the point is that HVAC is a reoccurring term. There's two things that I want to be able to in the next article that I publish on this series, George, there's two things that I want to be able to back up. One is that there's an interesting convergence of people who are involved in the COVID-19 story who own patents for HVAC technology, which I think is a curiosity, right? And just so that everybody has the context of why I think it's curious, if you're a biomedical doctor, or you're a lab scientist, or you have something to do with microscopes and viruses, and you also happen to have a patent for air conditioning equipment, that's a red flag to me. That's like, is it Hedy Lamarr Hedy Lamarr was a Hollywood movie actress who also has a patent for a technology that wound up being used in cell phone encryption. Is that correct?
Spread spectrum. Yeah. Yeah.
Spread spectrum.
And
Yeah,
you're talking about Shuang Wu, the boss of Jordan Walker, has all these
right,
air conditioning patents
right,
for
right.
York
So,
air conditioning.
right.
Yeah.
So Shuang Wu, who's on George's perfect org chart that James O'Keefe talked about, and then immediately stopped working at Project Veritas. Shuang Wu has HVAC patents. That's kind of that's an odd convergence, right? And then the second thing that I wanted to get the receipts on was the nanoferritin binding to a virus-like particle, because that is a fairly insidious idea. Because what it means is that if you assume that people with a virus who are infected are getting on airplanes, which is an enclosed tube where you're breathing the same air as a bunch of other people for a number of hours, then when people get off of the airplane and they're sick, then the assumption is going to be that those people got sick on the airplane. However, if they were previously dosed with a virus-like particle that was attached to a nanoferritin, and it requires activation by something like a Leidos scanner, okay, then what would happen is that somebody who presents as being healthy would get scanned, get on the airplane, and then when they got off the airplane, they would be presenting as sick because they would be sick. Which makes people believe that they were getting sick on the airplane, when in fact they got sick because they were dosed someplace else and the Leidos scanner just activated the virus-like particle that had a nanoferritin attached to it. Do I have that correct?
Yeah. And we talked about nanoferritin. We talked about the iron. We talked about ferriheme as used as contrast agents in radiology. We've talked about the heme molecule itself with 4,500 iron atoms. It's an energy absorber, and then it's a energy radiator. So there's a small period of radiation. So if you're with Osama bin Laden and you're running around and they're spreading this nanoferritin, it shows up in your lungs. And so when you go through the Leidos scanner, you have a different lung picture than when you're not going through the Leidos scanner. And that's where
fingerprint.
Yeah, it's sort of a fingerprint actually. And this is why they use the nanotechnology. And it was only a matter of time, and we talked about this in 2017 at Defense Threat Reduction Agency. It was only a matter of time before they used this as a form of societal control in the United States. And it came out in terms of a military live exercise in March 2020 in America. So it is what it is. I agree with your thesis here that the VLP is the controlled way to do this. The live virus is the
I got it from you.
Right, I understand. So that's why I'm agreeing with you, I guess. But it is the way to do a controlled op rather than an uncontrolled where you throw the live virus out there. You can go and have Mario Cuomo and you can have Trump look at all the dead bodies that come out of the morgue, and you can kill all the people that are on the
seventh floor of a particular building.
Yeah, critical care list. And you could stack bodies up out in the snow, because that's what you want Trump to see, so that he gives you authority to do, FDA emergency approval of remdesivir and of mRNA, and to do, Operation Warp Speed. It was the bodies out in Brooklyn where he grew up that convinced him to do that. So these are all psychological operations being done on the president of the United States. We're not just talking about us. We're talking about on the people that run the country.
Right. And that's a really, again, I think that the most important thing about this article is that the way that we framed it is that COVID-19 was not a bioweapons attack. It was, I'm calling it epi-war. I'm calling it epistemological warfare. and psychological warfare is a subset, Michael Flynn. It's kind of like advertising is a subset of marketing, right? That psychological warfare is a subset of epistemological warfare, where you're actually challenging how people know whatever it is that they know. And to your point, George, you could do it to presidents the same. I think they did it to Kennedy. To your point, you were making this morning about how Angleton was moving Lee Harvey Oswald to the Soviet Union and then back, and then immediately onto the U2 program. And then 2 days later, the pictures are being dropped on President Kennedy's desk. Was Lee Harvey Oswald the asset that President Kennedy was told snuck the pictures out, or, you know what I mean, snuck the information out of the Soviet Union? I don't know what Angleton was telling, Dulles was telling JFK, but again, you've got these weird coincidences where, you know, when Angleton was fired from the CIA, the only thing they found in his desk was the Oswald file, I think.
He certainly called up the Oswald file many times a week before the Kennedy assassination. That's now come out. So a lot of these things with Oswald took 50 years. We have to look at the citizen journalism that's happened here just recently with being in St. George the day before the arrest. You know, Kash Patel getting out of his little reality frame in Washington, getting on the ground. A lot of good things have happened here. Him putting out all the pictures. Those things are really going to be harder for them to knit a story once we have those pictures. Instead of Michael Savage savaging the fact that we have the pictures, he should be celebrating the fact we have the pictures, because it really hems in the people doing the storytelling.
Well, I don't think that he was savaging the pictures. I think that he was savaging that I think he was savaging. I'm sorry about the pun. The interpretation that was being presented by the FBI of the pictures. And I don't believe for 1 second that somebody from the FBI put that gun back together. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that's fine. I would like to see pictures of how the gun was found. I'd like to see pictures of how the gun was found. Normally what they do is they don't touch anything. They take the picture.
Exactly. Yeah, they take pictures.
They have little arrows, little plastic arrows pointing to 1, 2, 3, 4. They're little arrows. You got this little call out kit that they have, and they put it all down. I'd like to see that picture for the gun, both for the disposal of the gun and also the gun caching. And that's what Kash has to do. He's gone really great so far. More information is better than none. And with Oswald, we waited 50 years back into the right and all this stuff. Now let's keep going. Let's put it all out there. And I agree with Michael Savage. Let's show me exactly how this all happened. Show me more.
Right. And to that point, I mean, I think that one of the things that I've noticed almost about every story that you've covered that's been a big story, George, is that, and the reason I brought this part up from the story that we posted the other day about COVID-19 is that there was the bat virus, then there was the lab leak, then there was the wet market, then there was the Chinese bioweb. It was the Chinese, they did it to us. Then there's the monkeys escaping from the trunks, and there were dozens of other variations. Like, you know, Mark Kulak and JJ Cooey, they have their whole different take on things, right? It's the number of different takes that is the metadata. That's the information. That's the tell, right? That this is a much bigger operation. And so but to your point about Kash Patel getting out of Washington, D.C. and showing up in Utah, I think that people have to be hands-on, right? If Hesketh or Tulsi Gabbard or whoever it is, J.D. Vance is depending upon the filtering of information through intermediaries, and the intermediaries are all captured, okay, then they might as well be bad guys. They might as well be captured, you know? So we need to keep our eye on the prize, and we need to keep our eye on what's going on, but we need to understand that the battlefield is epistemological, and that these vectors will have the effect. You're the one who said, don't look at the laser pointer, right?
Right. I agree. And That's why we do the Tourette's, dozen people, dozen days, sometimes more. I want to tell everybody there. I'm not going to say where the new news van is located, but we are going to do another magic bus. You remember the bus further from Tom Wolfe, right? And Ken Kesey and Manson had a bus too, I think, called Hollywood Productions. The bus is going to go down the I-5 corridor. We are coming to Los Angeles. It will be going from Portland, Oregon. That's where, because we're going to do the I-5 corridor. It will come to Port Hueneme, to the base there. And we will have Peter Duke cooking with the talking stick, with the barbecue talking stick, somewhere near Port Hueneme. Okay.
Yes. And hopefully we'll be able to share the beach with the sea lions.
Yeah, we got sea lions to contend with on this, but we're going to have for this charrette, we have a portable nuclear power reactor. We have all kinds of moving equipment. We've got all kinds of guns, deck guns. We've got a whole bunch of free museums. We're also going to take a trip up to, we also have a guy in Lompoc where Vandenberg Air Force Base and all the SpaceX launches. So this is going to be the great West Coast Thanksgiving harvest of information that we're going to be doing. And we have to vet you before you get in the magic bus, but the magic bus.
So how do people get in touch with you for that, George?
Real George Webb 1. Send me a DM. We'll organize when the magic bus picks you up. But we are going to play that song, and I can't remember who sings the magic bus. I can't remember who sings it, but we will play.
Put it in the chat. We'll know.
There's 500 songs that we are told that are on the drive. So if you don't like some song, there's going to be another song. So it is going to be further. It's going to be further than further. We think further didn't go far enough, right? We will go by where the original Ken Kesey bus was in the Bay Area near Scott Adams. We'll try to stop.
Ken Kesey, who was touring, he was the driver for the Warlocks, who became the Grateful Dead.
I think the bazooka bubblegum laced with LSD is all a part of that story.
Came from the Central Intelligence Agency. Yeah.
This is not going to be a CIA bus, no drugs, no alcohol. So if you're, you could have to get out of the bus if you want to go explore the weeds or whatever. But that's it. We're coming to Los Angeles. We don't know how long we're going to be there, but we're going to do this bus thing, and we're going to see the Peter Duke with the talking stick with the barbecue thing again. So it's going to be great.
All right. Well, I can't wait for that, George. If people want to support George Webb, they can go to georgewebb.substack.com. And they can become paid subscribers, or they can go to buymeacoffee.com/GeorgeWebb1, no E. You could see the addresses right there below George's smiling face. I'm sorry we never got to the receipts about the article, but George,
we'll do another one. We'll do another show. That's okay.
You know what, George? I'm gonna buttonhole you offline, okay? And I'm gonna sit down with a piece of paper. I'm gonna write everything down, and then I'll post it on Substack. If you want to support,
I just didn't interrupt. I don't think there's topics of the day that people are very interested in. So we kind of have to talk a little bit about that, mix back and forth. People will read the article and we'll come back to the article. We're not going to give you a short trip.
I just want James O'Keefe and those people to understand that we're not, I'm sure James O'Keefe understands implicitly that we know what we're talking about because it cost him his job. Okay. But for other people out there in the world, James O'Keefe isn't sharing that information with you because it cost him his job. Right. Now he landed on his feet. But it was all
never been the same. He hasn't been the same since because he doesn't have the state sponsorship that he had with the Project Veritas and the Rockefellers and Barry, what's his face, with the yachts and everything. But having said that, Peter, we will go and talk to the people that are part of Children's Health Defense in Santa Monica. We will take the magic bus down there. We will go down there for all the folks.
Yeah, because you and I know the people who created Bobby Kennedy as the Children's Health Defense guy. So
And we have the two women handlers for Bobby Kennedy in Children's Self-Defense. And we also have James O'Keefe's group in Santa Monica. So we're at the Lighthouse Church where Peter and I have both spoken. So it's going to be fun for the whole family. I mean, it's going to be great. And I don't know how long we're going to be there, maybe through winter.
Well, maybe there's a way to, well, Thanksgiving is, I don't know, if you're here long enough, we could make it to the first Tuesday, and then you could have the last day be in Santa Monica at the Lighthouse Church or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'd like to work in the Lighthouse Church just to show people that we're in with people that sued the California government over vaccines, that Bobby Kennedy's home office, if you will, for Children's Health Defense. So
yeah, they're not. Yeah, those people don't just talk about stuff. They actually go out and do things.
Ground zero. So
anyway.
Yeah.
All right. If you want to support the Duke Report, you can go to thedukereport.substack.com, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/the Duke Report, and you can buy me a coffee, or you can go to if you go to the Duke Report Substack, you can click on the shop button. I just designed some EpiWar paraphernalia today, George. I haven't got it all organized on the website yet, but you can find it if you click on the shop button, or you can buy my book, Stealth Power and the Illusion of Democracy, on Amazon. And those are all the different ways that you could support us. And other than that, George, we got 3,500 people live right now. We should say, I don't know. I'm going to throw it back to you to say goodbye.
Absolutely. Say goodbye, and we'll see you all at one of our shreds. Hopefully, I really want people. There's Quigley in the background. Peter Duke picks up where Quigley leaves off with less tragedy and more hope.
Babe, I got to Quigley before we. This is
let's get it.
This is a bonus for people who stay to the end.
You get the Quigley update.
They can see Quigley. Quigley is like, I don't know, 40 or 50% bigger than he was when we first got him.
Oh, Quigley.
There he is.
Look at him. Oh, he's so cute.
Right here.
Oh my God, that dog is cute.
Yeah, he's he's like a giant stuffed animal.
Yes. Oh, he's so beautiful. Oh my goodness gracious.
He's awesome. A Bernie doodle. Anyway, and he's doing great. He was kind of sick there for a couple of weeks, but he's got the zoomies now. For people who have puppies, they know what that is. Deborah Johnson asked a question. I'll just answer a question really quick before we leave. Where does the gaming community mean by the term groyping? I don't know.
I do. Okay. Groyping means somebody who's a white supremacist who really hates Israel.
No, it came from something. It's older than that. That's what it became.
Well, that's what it became, but that's what people mean when they say groyping. But look, Peter Duke is the guy who did 52,000 stories of the Holocaust. He is the one who did the Shoah Foundation. For all those people who are saying Peter Duke's anti-Semitic, that's a joke, right? That's just a joke.
I just think anti-Semitism is Crown Empire propaganda. Like there's lots of Jews who got killed. Okay. Okay, well, I'll just leave it there. Anyway, there it is. We will see you again. I don't know when I'll see you again, George, but maybe Tuesday, maybe not. If not, I'll do Tuesday by myself. But with that, for the 3,485 people watching live, see you later, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Peter. Bye.